What time is it?
Talk the real with a certified yapper. Conversations about the latest and the greatest in the world. We can talk about that man, or you can tell me about old girl. Got a secret, hey, don't lay it on me. You need a friend, I'll be your big homie. Let's take a sip and talk it out. Therapy without the couch. On the rocks is what you need. Come toast reality with me, hey. Now tuned in to Rhonda on the Rocks.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Rhonda on the Rocks podcast. I am super excited to be here. I have not had a guest in a while. I just been raw dogging it by myself. But today I have a guest who is the author of an amazing book called Good Grief. Welcome to the show, Tonie.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, I'm very, very glad to have you here. Like I said before, I just been doing this kind of by myself for the last couple of months. I haven't had a guest in a while, so I'm really, really excited to have you. I'm also excited to dive into your book and just the topic. I've experienced grief, I feel like every day of my life, it feels like, in the last 38 years. And so outside of therapy, there's not really a lot of places to kind of talk about it. At one point, I was following a young lady on Instagram, and her platform was called Grief is Ghetto. And I think she had lost her fiance, and she just talked about her grieving journey. But outside of that, we don't really talk about grief and how it impacts us. And I think sometimes we only think about grief when it comes to death. But from what I know about your book, you talk about grief from all different aspects and not just from a death standpoint. So
yeah,
really excited to dive into that. But before we do that, we're going to jump into the first segment, which is called the Weekend Rundown. So I have been running down my weekends crazy. I was just in Dallas last weekend for my good friend D from the Boy Please Whatever podcast. It was his birthday. So I went down to Dallas to hang out with him and all of his friends, and I had a ball. Have you ever been to Dallas?
I've never been to Dallas.
Dallas.
It's funny because I was talking to someone this weekend about Dallas. I wanted to move to Houston, and it may be on the horizon potentially. Okay. I'm praying, seeking direction, what I should do with that. But my son has an opportunity, a employment opportunity in Houston. So
okay.
I'm like, Lord, we'll see.
Listen,
see what that looks like for me. But I've never been there before. I want to go.
You have to go and visit. I think this is my third time in Dallas. And what I like about it is there's so many different suburbs where you don't have to stay in Dallas proper. So there's Irvine, there's Grapevine, there's I think it's McKinney or McKinley. So all of those are really, really nice suburbs that surround the city, but you're still 25, 30 minutes from Dallas proper without traffic. Now with traffic, it's a little bit different, but it's a really, really nice city. I had a ball. Spent a lot of time on the Strip with my friends and just had a really, really good time. So I've been traveling a lot lately, which is why I ain't really been doing a lot of episodes because I've been in the streets. It's summertime shot. So I've been outside.
Have you been to Houston?
I've never been to Houston, and I want to go. I want to go.
I was going to see if you can compare the two because I hear that Dallas is so much slower when you compare the two. So, yeah.
Yeah, I've heard that too. I know that Houston is more turn up, like more like strip clubs and party life. And Dallas has that, but it's not, from what I've heard, people who've been to both, it's not as much turn up in Dallas as it is in Houston, which at this old age, like we were talking about before we hit record, I am an auntie. My mind is ate up. I can't do all of that. I do enough, and then I have to recover for 5 to 6 days.
Right, right.
I can't be partying every weekend. And I know if I lived in Houston, I would be trying to be outside. So Dallas is enough for me.
Okay.
But how have your weekends been going? What's up with you this summer?
I have been having a mild girl summer.
Okay.
And that has just been really consistent of me just hanging out with my girlfriends, brunches, patio pools, just really things that has been kind of calming to my nervous system coming out of grief. And so I've been really chilling. This past weekend, I didn't do anything, and Chicago was booming with activities.
Yes.
I didn't do much of anything this weekend, and that was okay.
Yeah, sometimes we need to kind of just reset. Like, I didn't do anything Saturday. I did like go for a 5-mile walk because I'm trying to walk 100 miles in the month of July. And so I did my walk. I cleaned up my house because my room from all of the travel was just clothes, just everywhere. And so I was like, I have to clean this up now or I'm never going to do it. So I did put all my laundry away, and like I felt a whole lot better after that, because when my space is chaotic, I can't rest well, I can't think straight. And so I cleaned up my room, but I kind of chilled this past weekend because Dallas took me down, child.
Traveling to do that. I think I always say you need a vacation from the vacation, because the airport, the packing, the unpacking, all of that is work.
100%. 100%. It definitely is. I do have another trip planned in the next couple of weeks. But I'm not going to talk about it on this episode. I'll talk about it on the next episode because it's kind of tied to grief. But yeah, I'm going to talk about it on the next episode that I do. Or if we do a part 2, I'll talk about it on there as well. But August, I'm sitting down. I've already decided like 2 trips in July is enough. August, I'm going to sit down. And then September, I'll pick back up again and do some more traveling. So, okay. Well, we're going to jump into the next segment, which is called Love Bites.
I'm mad. I have to go to work. I have to earn a living. I'd rather have a private income and get laid well and often.
So, Tonie, I need you to like pretend that I am your client and I am laying on your couch, child, because I experienced something that this is the second time that this has happened. And I really am trying to figure out how to process it. Like, I do talk to my actual therapist tomorrow. I'm really excited to like share this with her. But since I have you here and you are the grief expert, I'll see what you have to say. So a guy that I dated maybe 10, 12 years ago, recently passed away, and we had not had any communication in years. Like, we're friends on social media, but he's not a person that posts or like pops up very often at all. Like, the majority of the time I see him, he's in pictures with other people. So, but that even then is not really often. And so I'm scrolling on Facebook and I start seeing like people post him, and I'm like, I know, is it his birthday? Because surely nothing happened to this man. And he wasn't old. Like, maybe if he was 50, I don't even think he was 50. But of course, you know, people with the dramatics, and it's like, oh, I just talked to you yesterday. Oh, like, you know, so I'm looking, I'm like, did he pass away?
Jeez.
Like, oh my God. And I'm pretty sure it was unexpected because of the way that people were posting. And this had happened before with a guy that I had talked to. I ain't had no business talking to this man, child. I was probably like 18 and he was probably 25 when we were talking. But like years later, I don't know why I went looking for him on social media and he had passed away. And so when I saw that post, I like felt an emotion. And it was never like we were just like dating. There was no like sex or anything like that. Like we had gone out, hung out, text, call, that kind of stuff. But it never got to the point to where we were like in an actual relationship. But I still felt like incredibly sad. Yeah. And of course I went down the rabbit hole, child. Now I'm looking through his page. I'm looking at his kids. Oh, wow. I'm looking at all of this other stuff. Cause I'm just like, how did this happen? Like, you just don't expect people that you have dated, I guess, to just up and pass away. And I know people lose their spouses and all of that. And maybe it's more common than I know. But I really had a reaction to that. I'm like, oh my God, this man passed away. Like, I just felt really sad. And still, even just talking about it now, I'm like, why do I feel this way? Like, tell me, Tonie.
Yeah. So listen, I want to make one small but big distinction. I'm not a therapist.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I know you're not. I know. I should have said that disclaimer.
I've said that on other platforms too. I'm just someone I'm in my late 40s.
Okay.
And so I'm someone who's had multiple experiences with grief, whether it's death or grieving, a health situation, which I talk about in the book. But I'm just someone who's dealt with multiple experiences of grief. And I think that grief is the human experience of loss. And so with any connection, when there's a loss in that connection, I think it's very possible, even if the connection happened years ago, it's very possible to experience grief in that way. And so grief is also unpredictable.
Yeah.
Right? We never know when it's going to come, and sometimes it hit us when we least expect it. So like you said, you was not expecting to be overcome with those emotions because of this prior connection that you had, but it happens. And I think that happens quite often, whether this was a brief encounter or this is an encounter that you've had that was long lasting. There's also something that people experience too that is like so unexpected, and it's like I forget this particular form of grief, but this is like it's collective grief, where we all grieve someone collectively. We may not ever have had an actual connection with that person, but as a community, in our community in Chicago, we just experienced the loss of someone who was very big, one of the leaks.
Yes,
so as a whole city, we all grieve that loss. And so it's not uncommon that you would experience something like that, although the connection happened years and years ago.
Yeah, it's funny that you bring up Spencer Leak, because even when that happened, like, everybody knows he made that post the day before and said, like, y'all didn't wore the funeral director out or whatever, And I saw that post, and I don't, your algorithm will just bring up stuff that you're not expecting. Because I don't follow Spencer Leak that closely, but it was, I guess, because other people were commenting or whatever. Anyway, it popped up on my page, and I'm like, oh man, I'm just thinking like exhaustion, dehydration, whatever. Next thing you know, he is no longer with us. He didn't went home to be with him.
Yeah.
And I felt sick, like physically ill when that happened. And I'm like, Spencer Leak is such a pillar in Chicago. And just like everybody knows him, like everybody knows the name. Like if you are from Chicago, you know Spencer Leak. Yep. And so my heart just went out to his family, his wife, his children. And I think a lot about his daughter because I lost my father and I'm very much a daddy's girl. And so my heart just immediately went to her. Like, I wonder how she is gonna like deal with this. And when it's different because my dad wasn't on social media. He wasn't like this big pillar in the community. So I didn't have to go on my social media and see all of these pictures and stories and all of that stuff. Like I saw the ones from my family members, but those faded away relatively quickly. Yeah. But she'll always see, and his son as well will always see these memorials of their father on their social media. So I just can't imagine that level of grief.
Yeah. I don't know that I even took that into consideration. You know how everybody was just posting and talking about it, and it was on the news, and people was it was everywhere. So yeah, I would imagine that's really that was an added layer of difficulty. Although people were in their own rights paying respect
Sure.
to him, yeah, I would imagine that was just another layer of difficulty and grief added because it was just so big. It was big for
Sure.
us in Chicago.
Yeah, I remember when my dad passed. Shout out to my friend Genesis, who was just amazing, an amazing friend during that season, and I will always be forever indebted to her for just how she showed up for me during that time. But I remember telling her, like, we worked together. We were at the same school at that time, and I remember telling her specifically, like, when my dad passes, the only person that needs to know is our boss. I do not want all of these emails and condolences. Like, I cannot handle that. So
Yeah.
please do not get up there and make no big announcement. Y'all ain't got to send me no flowers. Like, please. Like, my friends who I worked with knew, and that was cool. But, like, I did not want the entire student body, and I was an administrator at the time.
Okay.
I didn't want the entire school staff to know, because I knew that people, even though they were showing their respects and like giving their condolences, I knew personally I could not handle that at that time. And so
Yeah.
I was like, don't tell nobody. Tell our boss that he passed, and that's it. Like, I don't want no emails, no calls, no texts, nothing. Like, I'm fine. Let me be fine. And so, yeah, I think when I think about just grief in general, or just grieving relationships, right? Like, this is the Love Bites segment rather. There are definitely relationships and friendships that I have grieved or maybe haven't grieved, right? What would you say are some signs or symptoms of like a situation that you have not grieved? Does that make sense? So like, if there's like a let's just say you and your best friend of 100,000 years, y'all decide not to be friends anymore, and maybe you feel like you've grieved the friendship because you've like cried about it. But like, what would you say? How would you say you've like grieved that or are grieving that friendship?
And so that particular type of grief that you're describing, that is disenfranchised grief. And so that's a type of grief, which again, once we get into the book, that is usually the least recognized because it is not the most, it's not the grief that people can initially identify with. So people understand loss, death, right? People understand that they want to send you flowers, they want to see, but when you're grieving a friendship, you know, people are generally like, you feel weird, or some may have felt weird about grieving like somebody who is not my significant other or something like
Yeah.
that. And so I think that one of the processes is to accept that you know that you're over it when that sting is no longer there. Now, we're not talking about the grief of death, right?
Right,
But
right,
we're
right.
talking about, and I can personally relate to that. I did have
Okay.
friendships that I was friends with these women since we were 13, 14 years old. We were friends for almost 30 years. In the room when we had each other's children, like we were matching tattoos, the whole 9 yards. And
Wow.
that friendship ended. And I think I grieved that friendship for like 3 years.
Wow.
Because I didn't really know, and I understand why I grieved it for so long. Not that it's not uncommon to grieve for a very long time, but I didn't know how to grieve then. And so I do believe that, you know, there is a right and a wrong way with grief. I know that sounds really crazy to say, but I
That's
didn't
not
grieve.
crazy to me at all.
Yeah, I didn't grieve it well. I was, you know, we'd be like, yeah, I don't care about them any, you know, that whole thing, and kind of not sitting with the effects of that loss. And so I think one of the ways you do realize is one of the ways, as many, is just really being accepting, and you know that it doesn't really ruffle your feathers, so to speak, of that type of loss.
Yeah. Well, child, I don't know if I've ever grieved one all the way, because it still be ruffling my feathers. Like, grieving my last relationship, it still ruffles my feathers to this day. Like, when I think about that relationship and I think about don't get me wrong, I am grateful, glory to God, that it is over, right? And it's been over for almost 3 years.
Okay.
And I'm very, very grateful for that. However, when I have to talk about it, like in therapy, or like if something comes up and my friends and I start to talk about it, it still angers me. Not all of it, but there are pieces where I'm just like, yeah, I'm still mad about that. Like I'm still very annoyed and irritated about it.
Yeah. I can relate, and I'm laughing because, baby, I can relate. Okay, it's in the book. I can relate to how that feels. And when I mean ruffle your feathers, well, this is what I mean. Like, grief is non-linear, right?
Yeah.
And there are stages, and the stages are also non-linear, right? You could be in a different stage of grief, where anger, denial, all of those things, and so I do believe that, there are situations that we will probably grieve some parts of that thing forever.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean you I think the measuring tool is where you were, and then where you are, and then where you could be in that process.
Yeah.
And so I don't think that some situations is just, it is what it is in terms of you grieving that what it was. You may not be grieving that person. Maybe you're grieving the future. Maybe you're grieving the plans that you had with this person, or what you thought the future would look like.
Yeah.
That's difficult too.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think my most recent ex is the only relationship that I'm still grieving. And I also have not seen him physically since we stopped talking. And I don't know, like, I feel like that needs to happen so that I can, like, be like, okay, cool. Like, I made it through. Because I've seen all my other exes in the streets, like, since we've broken up. And I've been unaffected by it, unbothered. But this particular one, I'm like, maybe I just... And not to see him and sit down and have coffee. Because, baby, it's in your face. Like, no. There's absolutely no way we're sitting down having any type of conversation for any reason at all. But, like, I just need to see him, like, walking down Halsted and be like, okay, whew, like, I don't know why I feel like I need that, but I just feel like I need to, like, see him and give glory to God that I'm not walking alongside of him anymore.
Wow.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like I need that, but we'll see. We'll see. So yes, rest in peace to the family. I don't want to say the gentleman's name on here, but rest in peace. Condolences to the families of those that we have lost recently. I don't know. I hope it gets better. I hope that they get their hands on this great book that we're going to talk about in the next segment to help them get through their grief.
Yes.
All right, moving on. We're going to jump into my favorite part of my podcast, which is called Bald-Headed Hoe Shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got a babe, but I left the nigga at home.
Hey, drop one. What we doing? Y'all talking about short classes. Yeah. Drop one. The
It's where we get into the meat and potatoes of our episode today. And Tonie, this is where you get the floor. I'm so excited to hear you talk about your book. First of all, like, I love to see Black women just really do their thing. Like, that's always going to make me proud, make me happy. When Sheridan reached out to me and was like, oh, she wrote about, I'm like, girl, yes, like, sign me up, put us in the group chat. Like, let's get this going. So shout out to you, first of all, for, like, writing this book, for taking lemons, so to speak, and making a lemon drop. Because lemonade, yes, but, like, what's better than a lemon drop?
Right.
There's not a whole lot of things better than a lemon drop. We can have lemonade, yeah, but lemonade is for children. We grown women who grieving. So you took those lemons and you made a lemon drop, and I'm just really, really excited to hear you talk about your book, Good Grief. So my first question is, what inspired you to write this? And I know that's probably a rhetorical question, but I just want you to dive a little bit deeper into what inspired you to write Good Grief.
Yeah. So I have a personal experience with grief. Like I said, multiple experiences with grief, but this last journey of grief nearly swallowed me whole. So this, I've been thinking, I'm like, Lord, how much do I want to share? Because this will be the first time I will really have the opportunity to like dive right in and just share some things. And so
Share.
I'm going to say whatever the Lord give me to say.
Amen.
So I was married,
Okay.
and my ex-spouse and I separated and then divorced. But the way the way in which it happened, it was a lot of betrayal trauma that was taking place, or that had taken place. And so this book started out as just me journaling my experience of, like I said, disenfranchised grief. I wasn't unable, or so I thought, to talk about it because it was a lot of shame and embarrassment that was attached to the situation. And so I just was journaling how my nervous system was completely traumatized as a result of this betrayal trauma. So as I was journaling different things, and it started off with me just in my phone, just taking notes, and literally 3 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning, I'm writing down or typing out what I'm experiencing in real time.
Yeah.
And so I was experiencing not being able to eat, not being able to sleep. And then when I was able to sleep, I was having nightmares. It was just like my nervous system was completely hijacked. My brain felt like it was hijacked. And so I realized in that process, through extreme therapy. When I say extreme therapy, I was going to therapy like 3 days a week.
Amen.
That's
Sometimes
how
you just gotta
dedicated.
get it.
Yeah, and I knew that it was the enemy's job to try to make me lose my mind in that process.
Sure. Yes.
And so I began to understand what betrayal trauma does to the brain, what it does to the psyche, the mind, the body, and the spirit. And so it compromised my sense of safety. And so in real time, I was so confused by what was happening to me. Again, I never really knew how to process grief. I never really knew how to move on from my loss. I was the type of person that I would literally say, in a regular relationship, I would say, I'm gonna give myself 3 more weeks to cry about this, and
Right.
then I'm over this. This is over with. And the more time went on, I literally was telling my therapist and some of my other girlfriends, like, what's happening? Like, this is not normally how I process. I'm good normally after a few weeks, but why is this such prolonged? Why is this happening over and over? Like, I'm crying. For the first 3 months of that betrayal, I was in a state of shock.
Yeah.
So that's what I began to detail, how my body and my mind was literally in a state of shock. How I had ruminating thoughts, and just going over and replaying scenarios and situations over and over. Because what I also learned is when the rug is pulled from underneath you in the way that it was pulled from underneath me,
Yeah.
really devastating. I'll go out and say it. I was a first lady. So my ex-husband is a pastor. And so
Now that changes things. that because I'm sitting here like, okay, girl. So you're in the public eye.
I am. I was.
You're on this pedestal. Okay, now. Okay.
And so not only was I grieving primary loss, but I was grieving secondary loss as well. I was kicked out of the church. Yeah.
Hey, how they kick the first lady out?
Well, with a text message that said, "Don't come back," with the other list of things that I needed to follow.
Wait a minute. Wait, I'm sorry. I just have to pause you for 1 second.
Yeah.
Now, as someone who I still am very, very much into the church, like I grew up in church, I am a believer for sure. One thing that I have learned, and this is my podcast, so I can say what I want to say. One thing that I have learned over time, since I've been an adult, and since I have like really known God for myself and who God is for Rhonda, the church can be, I want to be clear, the church can be closer to a cult than we want to like actually accept. That to me, like, this putting people out. You can't put people out from God, right? If we're saying that we are where people are coming to seek God and to get to know him, we can't put people out of that. So that's so weird to me, that how the church can sometimes vacillate between this like elite club, maybe it's not a cult, elite club where we have members and we can, you know, say and do and move people around like chess pieces. And so that just reminded me of like why I feel that way. And I will say, like, you really have to know God for yourself.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm sure when you were going through that situation, that knowing God for yourself probably helps sustain you. Because I cannot imagine my church sending me a text telling me to not come back. Oh, baby, watch this.
Well,
Y'all want to see the devil? I'm finna show you the devil.
Well, some of my friends wanted to put on all black and roll up. But here's the
That'd have been me. I'd been like, girl, I'm gonna get this wig off and get this ski mask on. Cause what?
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. I think it's important. So there's a phrase going around called deconstructing the church, right? I understand what it is and I understand the why behind it. But I think one of the most important things that we understand is it is the system of church that I've been questioning since this process has started.
Yeah.
The system of church. But the dichotomy with that is I can separate the church from the people. The church didn't kick me out. My ex-husband did. He sent the text message to me. He did that. Wow. So he texted me and said for me not to come back to the church with a long list of other things that I needed to follow, other instructions. So I was devastated. I cried, I screamed. I was, it caught me off guard. It completely threw me into a state of shock. And so, like I said, I understand I'm able to separate the two or whatever. However, I understand why people are turning their backs on the church. So, I was grieving that relationship while also simultaneously grieving relationships of people that I was leading, because I couldn't lead them no more because he kicked me out the church. So there was a secondary loss also that I was experiencing. And so I talk about that, and I talk about what that felt like and what it did to me psychologically, because when you do experience betrayal trauma, I do have a relationship with God. That is the way that I'm able to laugh about it now. But you do begin to question, why me, God? How could you allow this to happen to me? Because nothing really seems real at that point. There's a part in the book that I talk about how I would go to sleep at night, or try to, and when I would fall asleep, I would wake up and for a second think that I was dreaming. And then the reality would set in, like, this is my actual life.
My God.
And so it was just, it was one of the most devastating periods of my entire life.
And how long ago was this?
It was, that happened April, May, June, July, a year and 3 months ago.
So you got right down to business, writing that book. I know that's right. Woo!
So I'm still grieving.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? I still have my moments. And then I say it in the book. I say, I'm writing this book from within the journey. You know what I mean? From within the journey of healing. I think at one point I say I write this book with trembling hands and a bleeding heart. So it wasn't that I feel like I'm healed. I've arrived to my destination of healing. I believe that because of the magnitude of what I experienced, even having to grieve in front of my son, because between us, my youngest son was the only child that was still in the house. And so he also did he had to grieve it as well. He had to go through his own healing as well, because it didn't just happen to me, it happened to us. Because there was a certain level of betrayal that happened with him as well. And so once the Lord gave me this book, like I said, these were just pages of my journal. God just put it in me to invite other people to collaborate and be contributors. And literally, he gave me the chapters and what these other women should be discussing. So you do have people that is talking about actual losing. I have one girlfriend, Letoy Hannah. She talks about how she lost her mom, her dad, her grandmother, and her grandfather, all within about 2 years from cancer, which she had just came out of remission. And she's a cancer survivor, but as soon as she went into remission, she lost all of her maternal and paternal figures in her family. And she talks about that. I have another girlfriend, Tot Jones. She talks about grieving a pregnancy that she wanted, that she anticipated having. She had her son Dylan early. I don't recall, but she said, I think she had him at 29 weeks or 27 weeks. We know that pregnancy is 40 weeks.
Right.
She talks about that experience and how she began to grieve unmet expectations. The title of her chapter is When the Miracle Doesn't Look Like What You Prayed For. And so it's just it's a lot of different stories. Well, not a lot. It's 8 of us all together. That's right.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
Grief.
Yeah.
Well, I took the long route to answer your question.
No, that's exactly what I wanted to hear. Like, I want to hear the story, right? Like, I want to know, and I'm sure that the listeners want to know too, like, to write a book about your journey with grief, it had to be something that brought you there. And so I'm really, really grateful that you shared that. So when you were like, okay, I'm an author, I'm writing this book, this is what God has given me to do, and I'm going to go forth. What fear, if any, like came up, and how did you overcome that fear and like keep pushing forward? And maybe even with some of the contributors, right? Like, did you have any women who shared their story like, oh, I don't know, I'm nervous, like when you approached them about sharing their grief journey?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I'll start with me. The fear that I had is Tonie strong. Tonie is the one who talks to other people and get them out of, whatever funk that they're in. I've always been a really transparent person, but I've never really allowed my vulnerability to show. And I do realize that transparency and vulnerability is kin, but they're not twins, right?
Right.
So for me to be transparent and say the things that was happening to me. Say that for 3 months I tried to reconcile with this man. I'd say that my hands kept reaching for the phone even though I knew betrayal was at play. To even express that type of vulnerability for people to read it, that was extremely hard for me. In fact, that was clean up until my book launch. I was so nervous for people to get it, for people to read it. I still have some trepidation surrounding it because, we won, we ain't, the Hannahs, but people knew who I was married to. And so even exposing that part of my life was extremely scary for me. And I think it was some of the women, it was the same thing. Some of them, everybody expressed to me how after writing their chapters, they just cried. Because either it was they were revisiting something that happened a long time ago, or it was still fresh. Like my girlfriend Tot Jones, her baby is 5.
Okay.
So that's still kind of fresh. But then I had someone who went way back into their history of things that happened to them when they were a kid, and they're like late 40s. And so everyone talked about how it was difficult, but everyone talked about how cathartic it was for them to be able to get it out. I also have a girlfriend, Teresa Hicks. She's a part of the book. She talked about how she grieved the woman that she no longer knew. And it was based upon a lot of trauma that she's experienced in her life. And some of the things that she shared in this book, because she's my girlfriend, I knew a lot of her history. I was just like, are you sure? And she was like, yeah, I'm sure. And she told me that as a result of her writing it down, she's now able to talk about it more. It's not so difficult for her to go back in her history and talk about the things that happened to her, and that's aiding to her healing. So I think all of us has some fear surrounding being transparent.
Yeah.
With the story, or being vulnerable. I'm sorry, being vulnerable.
Okay. Well, when you come out with volume 2, tap me, because I got some stories that I do not mind sharing. That I hope it helps somebody.
Yeah.
One of the things that you said when you were talking about your fear is how there's a lot of shame that comes with the grief sometimes.
Yeah.
Like the relationship that I mentioned. When I started to tell my friends about like some of the deeper stuff, and I'll just say, like, I was in a very toxic, very abusive in all of the ways, financially, emotionally, verbally, physically, all of those Elise, relationship with someone that I had been friends with for nearly 2 decades. So I grieved not only our friendship, but our relationship. I grieved the future that I thought that we would have. I grieved the children that never came, the marriage, the wedding, like all of the things that never came, because of, the relationship wasn't no good for me. And God knew that. And I knew that, but I just decided I wanted to do my own thing. But there is a lot of shame that sometimes comes up in these situations. And I think that the shame on top of the grief is sometimes what makes it so hard, because you really do need to talk about it, but then you're also really embarrassed. Like, it was hard to tell people that man was knocking my head between the washer and dryer. Like, it was knowing me, right? Like, everybody's like, Rhonda's so confident, she's so bold, like she don't take no mess off of nobody, she don't play with nobody and all of that. And it's like, yeah, but that's not what was happening in this house, right? Like, I wasn't showing up as her in this house in those situations. And so there was a lot of shame that came with that. But at one point it was just like, this is what happened. And now this has turned into my testimony, right? Like, now I can say, this is how I've overcome. This is who I am today. This is how this relationship and this situation has forced me into God's lap. Like, I had to go back because there was nothing else for me to do. Like, I needed God more than ever.
Yeah.
During and after that relationship. And now and for the rest of my life, sure. But like, in that season when I was with him, I wasn't really messing with God like that. I was like, he cool, I go to church and all of that, but I wasn't seeking him in the way that I was when I was like, okay, God, you won. I'm tired. Like, help me get up out of here. Where's my way of escape? Like, show me right now, because I need to get up out of here.
Yeah.
And so yeah, that shame part, I think, is something that we know exists, but we don't always want to acknowledge.
Yeah.
But that once we get over that, that's kind of what catapults us forward, right? Like, once that you get rid of that shame, and you like, hey, it is what it is, all right? Like, this is what happened. This is what I did. Am I proud of it? No. Do I think that it's something that I want to maybe scream from the mountaintops? No, but it has contributed to my testimony.
Yeah.
So,
and that's the disenfranchised grief that I was talking about earlier.
Okay.
Like I said, it does surround a lot of shame and a lot of embarrassment. It is almost, I'll give it to you like this. A side chick, the man pass away. That's not a grief that she can like openly typically discuss.
exactly. Yeah.
Going through a divorce. That's because even in our culture, and these are some things that I had to recognize, and I learned in therapy that is the type of grief that we don't necessarily know how to support people in. Mm-hmm. We can support you when you lose your parent. We can support you. We can come over there with our chicken and our lasagna. We're going to get in the bed with you. We're going to say, sis, come on, let's watch a movie. But when you're grieving a relationship that didn't matriculate into a marriage, or you're grieving what you thought was going to happen, or you are grieving, you just like, get over it. Girl, you still thinking about him? You still, and it's like, yeah, I'm still thinking about him because I spent a great deal of my life with him. You know what I'm saying? So, or like you still grieving that situation, although he did that to you. Well, yeah, I am still grieving. I'm grieving what I thought it should have been, or what it should have been. And so, yeah, and I think that's what happened with me. Like I said, in my situation, and I didn't even go into the full details because you're gonna have to read the book. But
yes, baby. I know that's right.
I still, like I did mention that I still was trying to reconcile, which also caused me some shame and some embarrassment, because it's like, you'll see what he did, that was the final straw of betrayal. And it's like, you still was trying to reconcile. Was it that bad? I've heard people say, somebody told me, one of his friends that I desperately reached out to, just out of because I feel like you overshare when you're
Yes,
grieving and you go through a situation of betrayal. You tend to
100%.
overshare, and so I began calling everybody. I began calling his family, his friends, and somebody said, "Well, if he was that bad, or if it was that bad, why you want to get? Why you?" And it was like a little blame shifting in me, and so I was like, it made me even more embarrassed. It made me even more ashamed. So the enemy was trying to get me to become a recluse, retreat, don't talk to me, don't mention it to anybody, because I was getting stuff like that. So, yeah.
Whew. Well, we thank God for Jesus, don't we? Because I'm just so glad. Like I said, I'm so grateful that God gave you the vision to write this book. I'm excited to read it. I'm excited to share it with other people.
Yeah.
Can you tell us like where we can find this book, like where we can download it, buy it, all of those things?
Yeah, so the book is located on my website. IamTonie.com. That's TONIE. You can find it there. You can also find it on Amazon as well.
Okay.
But it's on my website, IamTonie.com.
IamTonie.com. What other kind of things are on your website? Is it just the book, or are you doing are you talking more about grief on there, or?
Yeah, so I do have, this is my 4th book authoring.
Okay.
Yeah, so I have my other books on there. The third one came simultaneously. So it's an interactive workbook called Grief, Growth, and God. And with that workbook, it talks about the different forms of grief, how it shows up in the body, the different stages of grief. It does some breathing, some exercises and techniques to help you move grief through your body. So that's located on the website. My youngest son is 18. When he was 12 years old, he and I wrote a book together. His name is Cameron.
Okay, Cameron.
Cameron's Lucky Day. So that's just about a precocious 12-year-old who's finding the good in things.
Yeah.
Then my very first book was called Faith, Hope, and Love. And it's a 21-day guide of transforming your thoughts and words. And so, I'm actually working on another book.
Come on, Tonie. You better write.
And that book, and hopefully that will be available the end of this year, the beginning of next year. And that book will go into more details of my actual experiences.
Yeah. So I think that you have something for everyone. You have a kid's book on there. You got a workbook for those of us who need to write down and work through the grief. You got your story, the good grief book, and others. And then you have the one about changing your thoughts and your words. So please, 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 everybody, go to IamTonie.com. Get all the books. Why not? We get them out and pass them out to other people. If you don't read, you don't know how to read, whatever the case is, still get the books. Give them to other people. Do what you got to do. Give it to your neighbor. You see your neighbor talking negative? Here, you need this to change your words and your thoughts. Okay? Pass it along. Pass it along. Well, Tonie, thank you so much for coming on the show today. I just feel so different just from talking to you, and I'm really, really excited to dive into the book. Where can people find you on social media?
You can find me same hashtag Iam.Tonie on Instagram.
Okay.
Tonie. I think that's my threads. I don't know. Auntie don't know much about threads and stuff.
I love threads.
Iam.Tonie, and then it's Tonie Nichelle on Facebook.
Okay.
Thank you so much for having me. I didn't know what to expect. I really enjoyed this conversation.
Yes, I did too. And I'm excited to have you back once the next book is written, or if you want to talk about Cameron's Lucky Day, child, or whatever, or if you just want to get on here and yap, because I like to talk now. So we can talk about whatever. We can talk about Jesus. We can talk about men. We can talk about whatever you want to talk about. But thank you so much for being such a gracious guest. I really, really appreciate it. And everybody, you guys know where to find me on social media at Rhonda on the Rocks. Please, please, please like, share, and subscribe. And I will see you guys next time. Bye.
let me holla at you. Come talk the real with a certified yapper. Conversations about the latest and the greatest in the world. We can talk about that man, or you can tell me about old girl. Got a secret, hey, don't lay it on me. You need a friend, I'll be your big homie. Let's take a sip and talk it out. Therapy without the couch. On the rocks is what you need. Come toast reality with me, hey.